Yeah, so maybe just a quick intro for Nico, who is here for the first time. This is an open session and we have an agenda doc. You might already have seen it on Slack, where the link gets posted. Everyone can just drop topics in there, book some time they think they need, and then we can give feedback and discuss during the session. And everyone is encouraged to help take notes so that it's not just one person who has to sweat typing and maybe miss half of everything and can never give feedback themselves. One thing that we also have introduced is that we have 2 note-taking champions who encourage everyone to take notes when people forget. So any volunteers who would like to be note-taking champions today?
We are volunteering.
Very nice. Diana plus dog. A human person as a backup would also
listen
be nice.
To them.
Volunteers?
I'll give it a go. If no one else.
Okay, thank you so much, Jack. That doesn't mean you two have to be, or you 2.5 have to be the only people to take notes. Everyone, please help them. But they are allowed to call people out for being lazy and not taking notes. This time, I'm not going to take notes because I will be presenting. So yeah, let's get right into it since we don't have anything else on the agenda. Oh, but one thing, recently we got the request that if we don't have a packed agenda, that people from the UX team or even developers could just demo something that they're working on right now, just to give insights on what they're doing. So any of you interested in showing something today? Like without the need to receive feedback or without the need to have any preparation done, like just showing a glimpse on the workbench?
I have nothing, sadly. I will try to arrange some students for next time, but
I mean, maybe we can see their work then next week. I guess that's a no from everyone, but that's fine. So for the project that I'm presenting today, this is the Exemplars feature, and I found 5 UX issues with the current live solution where I found fixes for. So I will just go through each problem and its solution one after the other, because I think it's easier that way than to present all the problems and then all the solutions after. So let me share my Figma. Share screen. Okay, so maybe just to give you an introduction, it's about the exemplars feature in Prometheus, which means that you can now output exemplars, which are these little dot thingies here, that give you further information on events that happen along your series. And there are some issues with the way this currently works. So the problem is, I mean, here it's quite simple because in this example screenshot, you only have one series. But imagine you had multiple series, like 2 or 3 graph lines here. Then these dots could be associated to different series, like this one could be associated to the green value line here. And then if we had another yellow one, this one could be associated to the yellow one, but currently there is no way to tell. Oh, but that's not even issue 1, isn't it? Yeah. The first one is that we have so many dots here. And in this example, they are all in the bottom and don't really get in the way of the graph. But depending on how the exemplar values are, they might just be all on top of this graph here. So we want a way to make the exemplars not get in the way of the data. So my solution idea was to decrease the opacity of the exemplars so that this way they are less intrusive with the line graph and feel more like they are behind the line graph. But then I'm personally not sure whether that could be like not helpful to users who are particularly looking for a certain exemplar. So I also thought maybe we could introduce a toggle where we say, oh, we want the exemplars to be like transparent in the background, or we want them to be in the foreground, and then the line graph sort of gets in the background. And of course, we can still experiment with opacities here, but like, as you can see in this fake mock-up here, like if the exemplars sort of cover up the line, then this makes it much easier to tell what the graph actually looks like, but this makes it easier to figure out where the exemplars are. Yeah, so that's problem and solution 1. Then we have problem 2, which is about what I've mentioned already with the grouping. So currently, like all the exemplars here would just be white or black dots, depending on the theme, and you would know which belongs to which series. So what I am experimenting with is adding different shapes that could be associated to different lines, so that if you're looking for a value exemplar for the value 2, then you know to look for the crosses and not for the diamonds. Yeah, of course, this doesn't scale infinitely. So if we have like 21 series, then you would have a lot of shapes. I have been trying to like find different shapes and like different ways to design these shapes so that you can still tell them apart, but maybe there's better ideas. But I didn't want to encode these different connections between exemplars and series just by color, because that's not the most accessible. Yeah, so that's something that could maybe use improvements, but it's a start. Any questions so far? Is it clear what I'm explaining?
Yeah.
People are nodding, very good. Okay, so.
Did we pass?
Sorry?
Did we pass if we're nodding?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just making sure that it's clear what I'm saying. All right. So the problem is that, let's say you do have 10 series and a lot of exemplars, then the view could get really overwhelming. Like imagine this times 10, right? Then it's a bit much. So like in the dashboards where you can click a series to only show that series, I thought it would be nice to click a series and then only see that one series and the exemplars associated with it. That should hopefully also be something that we can easily add, because we already have that functionality in regular panels. And then there is another thing. Currently, the window, like the modal that appears when you click an exemplar is this. So you get a bunch of labels, and then you get a trace ID, and this here is clickable. And what I did not like about this design is that it just looks like a tag. And as a user, I wouldn't be aware that this functions like a button, because not all the tags that we use in Grafana are clickable. So it's not fully clear to me. The reasoning why this is designed that way is because we have like a similar functionality here in the log labels, where we also show a trace ID, and you can click this blue thing to go to a tracing tool we call Tempo. But as you can see, this is kind of different, right? Here, it's a separate button that tells you where you're going when you click, and the trace ID itself is not clickable. Here, the trace ID directly is clickable, or it's supposed to be clickable. So I thought we should unify these both places and make the call to action clearer. So what I thought is we could do it like this. So use a small button instead of a tag, and also add an icon that clarifies. I'm not actually sure whether we want to open this in a new tab or a new window, or whether we want to open a split view. So either we should have a new window icon or a split view icon here so that users know when I click here, like this will happen. And also, oh, then I can query this trace ID with tempo. And so I would propose to do the same thing here so that it's consistent and the call to action is clearer. And then I found another issue with this labels view. Wait, where is it? Here. So this status code 200 here, these values, sometimes they are associated to series, but it could very well be that as a user, I am looking for a certain information here and I want to see all the traces that share that information. For example, because the status code 200 is some sort of error that I am interested in exploring. So I'm not actually sure yet whether all of these are relevant or whether it's just a few of them. But my design proposal is that we add a filter option here. So the users could click the value or the filter icon. And then similar as in the, I think, parse fields in Loki logs, we could show only the exemplars where this applies and would indicate the filtering here. And then you could sort of remove the filter by clicking show all. Yeah, and I only put the one filter icon, but depending on which values are useful, we could add it for all of them or for some of them. I don't honestly know. Yeah, more exemplar savvy people can decide that. And that's all the 5 improvement ideas that I have. Feedback, please.
That was an awesome presentation.
Thank
I
you.
mean, yeah, I love it. I mean, I talked to David about exemplars way back, and to see what came out of it is really cool. I just have I really like the idea with toggling, whether they're like exemplars are in the background or foreground, right? What was that? But that also made me think that maybe what you can toggle is actually whether you show exemplars, because it's not like you always need them. You need exemplars, I'm guessing now, because I don't have enough context, but when you're investigating something, right? Or checking something.
Yeah, I have been considering adding a third option for none. But what I'm not sure about yet is whether that's needed, because I think you have to pick a specific exemplar data source in order to be able to see exemplars at all. So basically you're pre-selecting that you want to see exemplars already. So
Okay.
I'm not sure whether you need to have a none option. Like, anyone from the dev side here who can clarify that?
I can't, I'm afraid.
Okay, that's okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean that the data source should support exemplars, and you should actually actively trying to visualize exemplars to get them shown. But I don't think that toggling them it's a bad idea. Like, I can imagine myself sometimes looking at the graph and in a specific moment not being interested in exemplars, for example, because I only want to see the series behind it. And honestly, this is another thing. I mean, I know you already told that we should probably play a bit more with opacity and colors for the exemplars. I love the idea of changing the opacity and sort of making it more subtle to the series. I'm not sure. I imagine this on a dashboard that is hanging on a TV screen in some office, and I'm not sure how this will work with people passively looking at the dashboard. Like, when you're required to interact with the dashboard itself, does it make sense not sure if it makes sense to you. I know this is
very
explored.
interesting. Like, I don't think we have addressed this sort of presentation mode use case for exemplars yet at all. So I have no idea whether it would be relevant. If it is, then you're absolutely right that it doesn't add as much value. Yeah, so I will just have to explore that further, whether it's relevant as a use case or not. The way it works right now, since we don't really get any info about an exemplar from the graph, except for like where it's located on the X and Y axis, so far it would bring even less value in a presentation situation, because you would have to click the exemplar to even see more properties for it.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just generally not a high priority use case, but I will definitely follow up on that.
On the switching part, I was thinking, by the way, I love the problem to resolution, like the solution that you proposed with different shapes. On here, on the opacity, which also I think is a good solution, I was thinking that we, instead of having a switch between showing background versus foreground, can we do a slider with opacity, and that can address the issues for those who have accessibility stuff, and they can just try and do their own opacity.
That's a great idea. I have no idea why I didn't think of that. I will try that.
And on the naming itself, if you are going to do a Togo, I realized I didn't know what exemplars are. So I searched, I've seen it's something related to tempo and tracing. Can we maybe have an information icon near the naming with saying what that is? And my last comment was, so when you click on an exemplar and you see the detail view, you have the blue button right now and you propose query with tempo. And my question is, shouldn't the call to action be trace with tempo instead of query?
Interesting point.
That's a very good question. And I honestly wasn't sure what the appropriate term was. And when I looked at the tempo documentation and our blog articles that we have so far, it always said query, but I can absolutely verify that with the writing team.
I was also thinking, if possible, I'm not sure how much that would clutter things, to add the little icon from tempo in there to raise awareness that it's a product, and because tempo can mean stuff, I don't know, temporary things.
Yeah, and on that note, actually, I think we should be very specific, and that is something probably you have to research, Jess, but we should be very specific about whether it's a split view, new tab, or whatever, so people know what to expect. The other thing, the filter icon next to the details of a trace. I will just wait till you finish this. Yeah, so usually my initial thought was that when I see such icon is that if I click on it, I will get filtering options, not that it will get filtered automatically. And often people click without waiting for, with those such popular icons, people don't tend to wait for tooltip, right? So I was thinking that maybe it's just about saying filter out with the status code, simply with words, some kind of a button or whatever that is very explicit what will happen.
Regarding this, why don't we use the same pattern we do for logs, for example? Like in logs views, we have, when you expand a log item, you have an icon which is an eye, if I remember correctly. which will actually filters the log for that value.
Yeah, I was thinking about whether I should use the eye, and I must honestly say I don't like the way the eye icon is working right now from a UX perspective in the logs. I think that could be improved, but you're probably right that we should just find one pattern that works in all the places and that we can use in the same way.
One thing that I really like the idea with different shapes for different queries when it comes to exemplars. But it's also depending on the screen resolution and the size of the panel, they will be more or less readable, and they will more or less look the same. So that is kind of a challenge I see, especially if they will have a certain opacity. Yeah, so that can pose a lot of challenges. And also from the accessibility point of view, like you need a lot of precision to hover and click on a specific.
I know, I have addressed this when the dev team first demoed the feature to me, because I was worried about the very small clicking area. But while the shape itself looks small, there is actually like a invisible area around it where you can already hit that object. So it's a bit easier to hit them than it looks. So like if your cursor would be here, this would already be hovered so that you can see, oh, if I click now, like this.
It would be nice.
triggers.
I think it's great that the one additional thing that can be done on the front-end side is to actually not only make it like pop with color or whatever, or get highlighted, but actually make this particular exemplar a little bit bigger, like to enlarge it, because the color change, making this like small animation can very quickly improve the navigation there and jumping from one exemplar to another.
Yeah, that's a good point. I haven't thought of it, but we should absolutely do that. And then regarding size in general, I mean, for now, I've just been using a similar size to the one that we currently have in the live version. But I do agree that maybe we could make them slightly bigger. I think they're like 5 by 5 pixels now. Maybe if we had 8 by 8, it could still work.
Also, I have another consideration about accessibility here. Like the first one is not really about accessibility, but in series you can. I mean, this is always not related to the Explorer mode, but more in dashboards, if this is coming to dashboard as well. That you can alight points. You have an option to have points on the series being rendered as points and not just as lines, which means that, for example, like the point shape for exemplars will be the same of the one in the series. I'm not sure if it's clear.
Clear for me?
I know what you mean. I've seen the points feature.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Haha, point. And finally,
intended.
Just the other day, I'm not even sure what situation it was. Maybe it was a query editor interview, but a user actually requested that this points view should be available in Explorer as well. So you're right that this needs to be considered. Maybe that's also why the exemplar standard icon is not a circle, but a diamond right now. So maybe we just cannot use circle icons, or we need a distinction for that.
Now, also, another point will be like I like that on the note on the side you have the different kind of shapes, like solids and stripes. I think I don't remember the other ones, because I think there was a discussion or some suggestion a while ago about having the series, like each different, for accessibility purposes, each series having different shapes for those dots to sort of make it like color blind proof. I don't know if you remember these.
Yeah, that's basically the plan.
Yeah, so this would probably interfere with these different shape for different series.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like if I have a square on series A and a circle on series B, because of accessibility, so I'm making it like color blind proof. Then having the exemplars with the same icon will make it harder, maybe.
Yeah, it's kind of going back to the discussion about having like a point graph. It's kind of the evolution of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you mean instead of having like one specific shape for points, you mean that the points should just have the same shape as the exemplar to make it clear that there is an association between that graph? But then you're right that the points themselves could look like exemplars, and that's not what we want.
Exactly, like they should look the same, like because the color is exactly the same point, but also the shape, it's related when I'm colorblind. But at the same time, with the same color, I make the points on the series sort of useless, like not useless but confusing. I think I don't know the solution. I'm just thinking about a problem that we might face in the future if we want to go with the road for that road.
Okay. Yeah, that's great feedback. I will just have to think about this a bit more.
Not making this easier.
It never happens, but that's okay. Like that's why
I know.
I go
That's
into
why
the
we have those
session
sessions.
with the like full knowledge that it means more work.
I mean, yeah, it's about making those features and ideas bulletproof, basically. Anyways.
Exactly. Awesome. Like any other feedback? Because otherwise, I'm already quite happy with what I got.
I have a question. Like,
Yes.
you say you can filter exemplar by clicking that value and see it. Why do I need to click an exemplar, see those values, and then I can filter? Is there not a filter button?
So
Is there a filter button for the exemplars?
Interesting. So like what you mean is like filtering before, like to filter exemplars that have only a specific value before clicking on any exemplar beforehand.
Yeah, I was just curious because basically the other way around, we're already building a filter feature. So
like these filters filter based on series. So you will get all the exemplars associated with like this one line graph.
oh, I mean the second thing you showed where you actually look at the data inside an exemplar.
So
yeah,
this one here. No, wait.
No, it's not that one.
There. This one.
Too many designs, Jess. Too many designs.
Yeah, you showed one, you click, and then you say show only. So you basically already built a feature for it.
Yeah, I mean, this one I was thinking is more specific because theoretically, if exemplars with multiple series had that status code, you would still see multiple series. So you basically filter for two different things or from two different perspectives. And you could also combine them. Like I could have 3 series down here that all have the status code 200, and then I could click one of them, and then I would only have the one remaining.
Okay, so I guess we're diving into nitty-gritty details of how exemplars work, right?
I think so. Like I think it does.
I got lost. Like honestly, I got lost for a second.
So the way I understood Nico's question is he's just asking whether we need to have two different like kinds of filtering, whether we can just combine it into one and the same thing.
No, it was basically, you basically showed like a workflow of like, I have to click an exemplar and then I can filter based on status code. But there was no way of just filtering first and then selecting exemplars.
Ah, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure whether users would know what to filter for beforehand. I'm not sure whether like you can gauge what could be like status codes or values of these exemplars. I will have to ask, but could be an interesting idea. I will take that up.
Some context, I haven't read up on what exemplars are. I just imagine it's
That's
like
okay.
data points.
That's perfectly fine, but good point nonetheless. All right. Then because we don't have anything else on the agenda and we already talked about this much longer than I had planned, which is good. Unless anyone has anything else they want to show or talk about, I will just give all of us 25 minutes back.
I have one thing. So we've been discussing broadcasting one of feedback sessions on YouTube. And the question is this a session that we want to share on YouTube? Would it be okay for everyone to upload this to YouTube or not? And the answer is fine. Just, do you all feel comfortable with it?
For me, as a person, that's fine.
Sorry. So who is the target in terms of publishing it on YouTube?
It's usually people who use Grafana and just follow our channel. So like engineers. I mean, think about it. I will reach out later on to everyone one by one to ask privately whether it's okay. And it's perfectly okay to say no. It was just a thought that I had.
Yeah, I will just, I want to confirm that content-wise, it's okay to show this with David and Zoltan.
All right, cool.
Oh, I think it's like also for future sessions, like should we ask participants beforehand while we're
recording? That is why I just like, this is like a nice half-an-hour session purely on exemplars. We could ask for feedback also on YouTube for people to like comment on what they watched. It was kind of late. I get that. If we say, yeah, it's fine, then we will publish. If not, we'll try another time. That's
for me, it's totally fine.
Cool.
I have a comment, like Jess, if you're doing any further like meetings with Joe or Anna, the primary Tempo developers, would you ping me as well? I would like to join because I can volunteer to be the Tempo doc writer, and I'm myself coming up to speed with all the different nuances that you were talking about, the exemplar and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, I haven't talked to the team that much. It's mostly been just David and Zoltan who sort of quickly threw this on my table. But if I have another meeting, I will make sure that you get invited.
Great, thank you.
Cool. All right. Do we get 20 minutes back of our day?
Absolutely. Oh, before we go, one last question though. Is there anything we could do to make these sessions better?
I really enjoyed today's session. Like, it took half an hour talking about one topic in depth, and I really, really liked it. Like, usually when we have like one topic, it seems like, it will be done in 10 minutes. But actually, what ends up happening is that we have space for more in-depth discussion, which I really, really enjoy. And I just note that I don't think we should cancel if we have only one topic, because today's session and some previous sessions actually show that even if it's one topic, it can be really cool and meaningful conversation for like half an hour.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. Awesome. Anything else? Otherwise, take 20 minutes. All right. I guess that's
Okay.
20 minutes then. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Have a great rest
Thank
of the
you.
day.
Bye bye.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.